Hello everyone, welcome back to the Empower Journal, a space to create the life you want to live. In this podcast space, we explore stories of resilience, purpose and impact. And today's guest is someone truly special. I know, I keep saying this, but yeah, that's what it is every time. Joining us all the way from Chicago, someone who's actually redefining leadership, work and what it means to thrive. Alex Draper, founder of DX Learning Solution and a global advocate for leadership that's not built on fear or authority, but on empathy, accountability, and trust, most importantly. You might be wondering, right? Why Alex on an Indian podcast? Because leadership struggles are universal. At least that's what I believe. Whether you're managing a tech startup in Bangalore or leading a Fortune 500 in New York, the human side of leadership is the same. And Alex has spent decades helping leaders across culture rethink how they lead. So let's jump right in. Alex, welcome to the show. Tell me, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling great and thank you so much for having me. Looking forward to diving in, but I'll double down on what you just said, which is leadership, whether you are a CEO, whether you're a VP or a director, whether you work in an entrepreneurial organization or a large organization, a healthcare organization or a manufacturing company, whether you work for an Indian company or an American company, leadership is leadership. Why? Because the people that come to work for you are humans. And I'd go one step further to say the people that come to work for you are they have a soul, and all souls are very similar regardless of generation and who you are, but they are a human and they are a soul. So as a leader, it's real simple. We've got to treat those souls right.
Great to hear that. I love to dive straight into your leadership philosophy because it's something that really stood out for me. You often talk about leadership needing a reset, away from power and control, and of course towards empathy. What was the turning point that made you dedicate your work to the shift?
So I grew up in the UK. I was a trainee school teacher. And that's where my real journey began, because they fired me and told me that this is not a job for you because I didn't want to follow a script and I needed way more agency than they were willing to give me as a teacher. So that was phase one. But I just loved the transfer of knowledge. I really enjoyed the ability to help people get better. Which then moved me into a management consulting company. And then as I was doing that, I was primarily teaching and educating leaders on commercial acumen, financial acumen, and business acumen, and helping them be better leaders from a management point of view. What I realized was it doesn't matter how much skill you have, the technical expertise, your credentials. What really mattered was how you treat people.
Right.
And that was an epiphany that I had. I also, grew up with not the best, father leadership from a fathering point of view. And then of course my first boss also was a fantastic with IQ, but not so much the EQ, the emotional intelligence. I just realized there was something fundamentally not right out there, or could be better. We were all of us spending way too much time educating people on more of the IQ and less about the EQ, the emotional intelligence. And you could just tell there was a problem out there.
You're right. That makes so much sense. It's actually powerful how you turn that moment into a mission to redefine leadership for others. So on that note, I want to bring it closer home. In India, hierarchy is deeply embedded. In fact, leadership is very hierarchical. Authority is respected, but having an open or a honest conversation aren't rewarded much. In fact, it gets lost. So how can empathy and accountability grow in such cultures?
I truly believe you can still get a result. In fact, you'll get better results if you dial in the emotional side of leadership and you dial up empathy. But remember that every decision that you make, everything that you say, everything that you don't say, everything that you do, everything that you don't do, when it's received by the person that you're talking to, either creates more trust or diminishes more trust. There's no net neutral. But with a high trust team, it's very simple, because if they trust you, they'll wake up in the morning and go, how can I do my best work today? How can I please the customer even more? How can I get better results? How can I do my job right? They will do that if you, the leader, have demonstrated, as you said, empathy, curiosity, the emotional skills of leadership. They're more likely to do that. My challenge to the workplace, regardless of where you are, is we're just not training people and educating them enough on that. We're still doubling down on hierarchy, command and control. It's all in the leader's hands. And that for me was 1900s. We're in 2025 here, people. The world has moved on, and the expectations of our employees, the younger generations, have also moved on. And right now we're seeing a wonderful rift in the workplace of a dissonance between old traditional methods of culture and leadership and expectations of young employees. And I love it.
That's a really thoughtful way of looking at it. In fact, I completely understand, like the small shift, like listening, acknowledging people's effort, or even admitting mistakes from the leadership can actually change the culture without challenging tradition. So on that note, you would have worked with leaders across continents. So what patterns do you see when it comes to the biggest mistakes leaders make? And how do these mistakes show up in everyday teams?
It's a good question. So at DX, we have a framework for high performance.
All right.
I'll walk you through that quickly, which will help you understand the mistakes that we all make. So the framework for performance is called Care to Win. We're all trying to win at something. As a leader or as a business, we have to win at something, whether it's customer satisfaction, employee engagement, hiring the right people, ensuring we have retention, getting shareholder value, whatever it is, we're always trying to win it at something. Yeah. So our whole premise is, well, you're more likely to win at that something if you care, not the cuddly type of care, okay? We're not going to give each other hugs here. But what I mean by care is clarity. C stands for clarity. A stands for autonomy, R stands for relationships, and E stands for equity. So go back to the original question, sort of the context was, well, every person who comes to work for you as a leader is a human. And they need clarity in order to do their job effectively. They need autonomy in order to do their job effectively. And they need a sense of relationships to do their job effectively. And they need equity. And we can walk more into that later. But the biggest mistake that I find is this. The bigger the gap between what you give and what someone needs, the more performance issues. So what's fascinating about the workplace and about humans is we're not all the same. So I'm an entrepreneur. Okay. I don't need much clarity in order for my brain to spark up and be its best. So I have a low preference for clarity. The mistakes that we make is to assume that others have the same preferences that we have. And that, of course, is catastrophic for a team.
I like how you highlighted that. It's a reminder that leadership isn't just about big decision, but it's like everyday's behavior that actually sets the tone right. All right. So we've been talking a lot about how leadership is evolving. And that brings me to something central in your work, the care leadership. Because control is what often seen as strength. But what if real leadership today is about care and not control? Can we break down the care leadership model?
Yes. So clarity, hopefully it's clear for you, right? Clarity is communication. It's about when I say something, do you receive it the same way? And any dissonance between how you receive it and how I say it leads to challenges in teams. Autonomy, agency. Do I, as a team member of you, feel I have a say in how decisions get decided, and do I have a say in how I do my work? And relationships, of course, is a sense of belonging, that I feel valued on this team. And equity is adapting to the unique needs of each person. And therefore, relatively simple, our job is to provide the necessary care for others. But what's interesting, I'm going to be honest, having worked for Indian companies and American companies and British companies, we bring our cultural norms to leadership. And just because you've done it this way doesn't mean it's right. So, of course, India has high levels of clarity and low levels of autonomy, and more than likely low levels of relationships, because it's all about hierarchy and control. Whereas if you go to European countries, they'll have very high clarity, medium autonomy, and much higher relationships. They put an emphasis on building relationships. America, low clarity. They love to use big, long words that mean nothing. So low clarity and low autonomy, because it's still very hierarchical here. And actually probably medium to low relationships, because it's all surface level. So these are cultural norms and, of course, generalizations. But that's really what this is all about. We have cultural norms. My ask is we break those norms and do what's right for the people that come to work for us.
That definitely hits home, because most of us grew up thinking that tough boss was the strong boss. But what you are saying is, like, the strength actually looks very different today. Do you feel Indian workplaces are actually changing, or it's still more conversation than action? Because I believe you also understand Indian work culture pretty well.
So here's the basic psychology answer to that. We are, as human beings, what you reward. So you can talk a good game about humans and humanity, and you see this a lot in America. But at the end of the day, America is still capitalism, and we still reward the result more than the people. Right. I can't speak for India, but you can let me know. At the end of the day, what are we rewarding leaders on? Are we rewarding them solely on the result? Or are we rewarding them on both the result and their leadership capabilities from an emotional intelligence point of view? So we are what we reward. And until you change the reward system and the consequence system, because leadership is just like parenting, my kids will do more of what I tell them that they do well at and reward them for, and they'll do less of what they do badly and what I consequence them for. Okay. Business is the same.
Yeah, exactly. Posters and policies are very easy, in fact. But what happens under the pressure that shows if culture has really changed or not?
Oh, you got it. It's you can have the coolest values in the world. We put people first, and we have empathy, and we're all about inclusion here. But if the reward system does not match that, then it's just writing on a wall, and that's not a good thing.
Rightly said. Okay, so now that brings me to the younger generation question. Like, see, these days the young professional seem far less willing to accept the old school leadership style. So how do you think this generational expectations are really pushing this change?
Yes. And my reason why is this. I'm 47. Okay. 47 years old. I had to think then. So I'm 47 years old. I grew up. So what makes me me? What makes me the human that I am today? Well, it's my parents. My parents grew up in World War II. So their parenting of me was built on their environment. So my parents drove a certain value system into me. They also worked, which meant, end of the day, I had to create my own autonomy and my own clarity. So very resilient. My school teachers were built on very old systems and very much command and control. My friends, all of these things make me who I am. My teachers, my parents, my friends, and the environment that I grew up in. I did not grow up in technology, and therefore, was very patient. Had to find things to do and search for knowledge. Which I remember going to a sales meeting. Right, you had to print out the directions from A to B, and if you got lost, well, you had to find your way back. So that's me. Now that's very, very, very different to Generation Y.
Yeah. Okay. Why?
I'm there. You get why? Because I'm their parent,
Mm,
and we tend to over-index on things that we didn't get. So you tend to give what you didn't get. So I can see a lot of parents who are now overbearing on their children. You've then got school systems that are very different. Of course, you add in technology into all of this. And the environment, there was no world war right now. There are wars, don't get me wrong, but it's a whole different environment. So the kids of today are, from a three-generation point of view, so different. Their values, what drives them, why they get out of bed in the morning is uniquely different to what drives me. And I think the biggest problem that we've got is because there's 4 generations in the workforce right now. The people of my age and older are really struggling to engage younger generations because they just don't get it. And of course, you hear it all the time. Well, I grew up this way and I did this and I did that. Well, it's not about you. It's about them. So that's empathy. That's how you started this conversation. We've got to understand what makes other people tick and other people tick and get to know them for who they are and what they value and adapt.
Actually sounds simple, but living them daily is what separates the slogans from true leadership. Okay, so Mr. Alex, we have spoken enough about hierarchy, accountability, and even vulnerability in leadership. But if we zoom out a bit and look at the kind of world we are living in today, which is extremely hyperconnected and stressed and often divided, definitely the old playbook doesn't really fit anymore. So if you had to reimagine leadership for this decade, what would be the 3 non-negotiables for any leader?
So, number one, I will always say it's emotional intelligence. So remember, emotional intelligence is self-awareness, your ability to make sure that what you see in yourself is how others perceive you, and the closer the gap, the more effective you are. And we're not very good at that, by the way. So emotional intelligence, self-regulation, your ability to self-regulate, to manage your brain and stay consistent. Interpersonal skills, your ability to communicate effectively, and social awareness. So for me, emotional intelligence is it. Number one, period. So number one, emotionally intelligent leaders. Number 2, people first. We've got to move away from results only in some cases to people first. And as I think we started this conversation, if you treat people right, they will treat you right and the customers right. No business can survive without customers. Like for me, this is so simple. And Richard Branson says this. I love Richard Branson. I might have a man crush on him. But if you treat your people right, they'll treat the customers right, which treats your profits right. It is that simple. So put people first so they can put your customers first so that they can make you money. So emotional intelligence, number 1. People first mindsets, number 2, and systems to support that. And number 3, we don't talk about it enough, but it's trust. So emotional intelligence, number 1, people first, number 2, and number 3, it's trust. We've got to prioritize trust, and because I hope you agree, nothing good happens in a team, any team, whether it's a sports team, a business team, a male-female relationship, or any relationship, or any your kids. It's trust. Without trust, I believe absolutely nothing good happens.
Alex, behind every leadership philosophy, there is usually a personal story. Was there ever a time when you failed as a leader, and how did that shape your approach today?
I think the difference between failure and mistake is a mistake is a deviation from a result, and a failure is a cataclysmic thing gone wrong. So the biggest failure for me was when I started DX. So I started DX with those 3 components, right? I will be an emotionally intelligent leader. I will put people first, and I'll build high trust environments. So that's my business. And I had probably 95% employee turnover in the first 5 years. And I actually ended up becoming the type of leader that I'm trying to eradicate from this world. Why? Because huge growth and trying to start a business. So I actually then my ego got the better of me, and I said all of these things. We hire on this. You're going to expect this, and actually, what they received was a bit of an ego-driven, results-only boss. So the mistake that I made was what we talked about earlier. I said one thing but did another thing, and I wasn't recognizing and I wasn't listening. So the biggest mistake was do not say integrity, right? Do what you promise. I was not demonstrating integrity. I call it culture conning. I was conning my employees. I said that they would receive lots of empathy and curiosity. And what they received was a minded boss who did not do that, and they all left. So that was an eye-opening moment.
Thank you for sharing that so openly. I think our listeners will really connect with the honesty here. And before we wrap up, I would love to end on something fun and fast. So let's do a quick rapid fire round. Short answers. First thing that comes to your mind. Ready?
You got it.
All right. So here we go. A leader you would love to shadow for a day.
Richard Branson.
Hey, lovely.
He smiles a lot. I think isn't smiling one of the very infectious? So he just has this infectious personality about him. So Richard Branson.
Okay. A leadership buzzword you wish would disappear?
Micromanagement.
I just nodded, and all our listeners would be nodding while listening to this. Okay. Your favorite book or podcast on leadership?
Oh, my favorite book. That's horrible because I have so many. My recommendation for you all is to read Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Perfect choice. Okay. So, while you coach, so are you a coffee or a tea person?
Depends what time of day. So I'm British. I drink coffee in the morning and tea in the afternoon. So if I'm coaching you in the morning, coffee. If I'm coaching you in the afternoon, tea.
Right. All right. So one advice you would give to your 24-year-old self?
Don't take yourself too seriously. There's only 4,000 weekends in the life, and over in a heartbeat. Now that I'm 47, there's times where I'm like, why did I work so hard? Why did I have to work 16 hours a day, 7 days a week? Don't take yourself too seriously. Find time, find balance. There's more to life than work.
That's such a practical advice. Growth rarely. Okay. One habit that keeps you grounded as a leader?
Curiosity.
Right. That's really powerful. One last question. So, one quality you admired most in young leaders today?
They are challenging the status quo. I grew up, my mum taught me, never be vulnerable, get your head down, son, and work hard. So I do. I still do that. But what the younger generations are actually, they don't get their head down and work. They do leave companies when they don't feel that there's purpose and mission anymore. And they are challenging the status quo. And I love it.
The fearlessness. Great. Okay. So that's all we're at the end of the session. Thank you so much for being with us today, Alex. You have just not given us the frameworks, a new way to feel and practice leadership, I would say. The shift from control to care, that was amazing. From sharing your own journey to unpacking what connection, accountability, resilience, and empathy can look like in action. That was a wonderful perspective. You actually left us with ideas that leaders at every level can take back to their teams tomorrow.
Thank you for having me, asking great questions, and I hope for all of you there's some nuggets in here to help you get 1% better.
Absolutely. So where do our listeners reach out to you?
The best place would be LinkedIn, so Alex Draper DX. We have a website, dx-learning.com, and of course you can find the book Care to Win on Amazon.
Great. And to our listeners, I hope this conversation has sparked new questions about how you lead, how you show up, and how you can bring more humanity into our work. Alex, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you again for joining us. See you.
Thank you.
Thank you.